What's up, YouTube? My name is Scott Studios, and this is my actual movie review. If you saw my Spider-Man Homecoming spoiler review earlier, I posted that today, August 7th, 2017, but that's not my actual movie review. I just didn't get to do that video earlier last week, so I thought maybe I'd do that today, as well as my actual movie review. And if you saw the title of the video, which you probably did, then you already know what I'm reviewing, but you probably don't know what the movie actually is. So I'm going to tell you, this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and if you saw my introduction video, then you probably remember me saying that this is one of my favorite movies of all time, Interstellar. This movie is about a man named Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey, and he's living on Earth in the near future, where the soil isn't producing a kind of vegetation that it used to, Earth is dying, nitrogen is taking over the atmosphere, and eventually Earth is going to become inhabitable for humans and all other life. So he and Anne Hathaway and other actors go up into space through a black hole into another galaxy, and they're trying to find a planet in which humanity can live on before it's too late. And I was very interested in seeing this movie in the first place. I didn't see this movie when it came out in theaters in 2014, so I didn't see the movie until a few months ago. But I was very interested in seeing this movie because, one, I really love space exploration films. And two, Christopher Nolan's one of my favorite directors of all time. This guy directed the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, The Prestige, Following, Memento. This guy is an incredible director, and he's one of the best screenwriters of this generation. And I was very interested in seeing this movie. What I didn't expect was to walk away from the movie confused. Because, look, Christopher Nolan has directed some of my favorite movies of all time, but the thing about all of his movies is that they are so original that you can't really predict what's going to happen next. That's what I really love about this movie in particular. Inception did this as well. Interstellar is a film that you have to watch more than once. So, I may drop some spoilers in this review, so if you haven't seen Interstellar, go watch Interstellar. Get it on disc, rent it online, find it on Netflix, whatever. However you can, watch Interstellar, and then come and watch this review. Now, actually, watch it twice, and then come watch this review, because you really have to watch this movie again. You have to watch this movie at least more than once. Because the first time I watched this movie, I was confused. I was sitting there going, what? And that was just by the third act, because the first two acts, I was like, okay, this is a cool space exploration movie. And then the third act came, and I was like, what is going on? And then, so when the credits started rolling, I told myself, I have to watch that movie again. So I watched it again, and then I watched it a third time today in preparation for this review. And this movie reminds me why I love watching and reviewing movies, because this is a very interactive film. It's very ambiguous, too. You get to have an interpretation on what some parts of it mean. Some things don't always make sense, and I think that's why right now a lot of people are going to find this movie confusing, but let's say 20, maybe 30 years in the future, people are going to look back on this movie and say, classic. Interstellar is a science fiction classic. So let's talk about why I love this movie so much. So, the performances in this movie: Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway. This also stars Michael Keaton, and Topher Grace is in this movie too. I have to remind myself that he wasn't the reason why Spider-Man 3 sucked. But everyone gives an excellent performance in this movie. So well, actually, that they don't feel like actors. They feel like actual people. And I think the writing really does help, because the writing in this film is top-notch. The characters are all well thought out, although I do think that there could have been a bit more given to the characters. They were good for what the movie needed them to be, because this is a very plot-driven movie. It's not focused too much on character. I mean, it is focused on character, because there's a lot of emotional scenes in this movie. In fact, the movie makes me cry every single time I watch it, almost. Almost cry. The cinematography in this movie is incredible. Christopher Nolan knows how to set up a good shot. He knows how to keep the camera moving very smoothly. The colorization, the lighting, and the music choice, like the score in this movie, is amazing. And it works so well in suspenseful scenes, because it's just the same repetitive sound, but it still feels like music. It's very spellbinding. In fact, this movie is very hypnotic in a way. Every single time I watch this movie, I feel glued to it. I can't take my eyes off the screen. That's how good of a film this is. All the sets look very natural. When they go on different planets, they feel like different planets. They don't feel like the actors are on sets. The green screen looks so realistic. When they're in space, it looks amazing. And I also really love this thing that Christopher Nolan did for when the camera cuts to a wide-angle lens in space. He always cuts out the sound. It's incredibly silent, which makes sense because there's no sound in space. I don't want to get too scientific. I want to keep this short and simple. But it's just a little bit of a spoiler. Matt Damon is in this movie, and there's a scene in this movie where he's going up into space, his ship blows up, and the camera cuts to outside in space, showing the ship blowing up. And when the ship blows up, you don't even hear an explosion. It's just a silent... Yeah, it's just silence. It just cuts to silence. That's how well the editing is done. This movie is so good. In terms of flaws, again, I said that the characters could have had a bit more. But the only major flaw, it's not really a major flaw, but I'm going to count it anyway, is the fact that there's a... the movie is a bit long. This movie is about 3 hours. But really, the length of... a movie's length doesn't really matter as long as it's engaging. And if you love the characters and all that. And this movie does that so well. I do think that if you cut this movie down probably about 5 to 10 minutes, it probably wouldn't feel like it's dragging in just a couple of areas. And it does in some points, but it doesn't really matter because the movie's so engaging. And when you watch this movie a second or even a third time, you'll start to notice these little things because there's these twists and turns in the movie. I don't want to spoil too much because I want you to watch the movie and be surprised by it. But you get to see these little things, these little hints foreshadowing these twists and turns, and that's what makes it so rewatchable. I love Interstellar. I can't wait to see what Christopher Nolan does in the future. He just released his new movie, Dunkirk. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I really want to. Christopher Nolan is a fantastic director. He knows how to make a movie. Every single one of his movies is good. Every single one. And this Interstellar... man, this is one of the best. I'm giving this movie a 9 out of 10. I almost gave it a 10 out of 10, but I thought to myself, yeah, this movie deserves a 9 out of 10. If I had a 9.5, I would do it, but this is a 9 out of 10. This is an excellent movie. Please go watch it if you haven't seen it yet. I'm Scott Studios, and peace out.